Welcome back to the Slow Flower Show with Deborah Prinzing. This is episode 615. Hi, everybody. We have an info and inspo-packed show today in which you'll meet 6 floral experts who are scheduled to present at next week's Slow Flower Summit. I'm thrilled that all of these gifted and talented flower friends were able to join me in the virtual studio this past week for a quick recording so we can introduce you to them and share our lively conversation with you. We've planned the Slow Flower Summit taking place June 26th to 27th, 2023, to take place at the Bellevue Botanical Garden in the Seattle area. It's our 6th annual gathering, and we want to showcase as many speakers as possible, bringing a diverse range of ideas and creativity to our attendees. When Karen Thornton, our event manager, and I discovered that the meeting spaces at the Bellevue Botanical Garden could be divided to accommodate several simultaneous breakout sessions, it seemed ideal to offer 3 subject tracks. This is something we've never done before. So it's going to be fun to see how we move all the many people and places around in a short period of time. It will take place on Tuesday, the 27th, and there will be 3 options at 11 a.m., 3 options at 1 p.m., organized by different topics: floral design, flower farming, and sustainability. So today you'll meet all 6 of the experts who will present in those tracks. All are past guests of the Slow Flowers podcast, so you may recognize their names and voices. For scheduling reasons, we recorded on 2 different days this week. First, you'll meet Sarah Reyes of Wildflower and Fern, who is one of our sustainability speakers. You'll also hear from both of our flower farming speakers, Tracy Yang of John Co. Farm and Dee Hall of Mermaid City Flower Farm. That will be followed by part 2, when you'll meet Becky Feasby of Prairie Girl Flowers, the second sustainability speaker, and both of our floral design presenters, Gina Lett-Shrewsberry of Inspirations by Gina and Valerie Crisostomo of Black Girl Florists. I'm excited to dive right in. So let's get started. I'll share our sponsor thank yous at the end. Here, and this is a very special edition of the Slow Flowers Show because we're going to preview some of our amazing speakers at the upcoming Slow Flowers Summit. On day 2, we have 3 subject matter tracks, and so I've invited the speakers of those tracks to join us, and so you can meet them and hear a little bit about their story and what they're planning to bring. Today, we have Sarah Reyes, a Wildflower and Fern. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, guys.
And Tracy Yang of John Co. Hi, Tracy.
Hello.
And Dee Hall of Mermaid City Flowers. And I hope I said that right, Dee.
Yeah, you did. Hello.
And all 3 are past guests of the Slow Flowers podcast. And I was just reminiscing that all 3 of them I've been able to fortunately interview in person. So this is a little bit of the virtual studio. But one of the tracks that we have is focused on sustainability. And Sarah's going to be on that track with Becky Feasby. And then one is the flower farming track. And we've got Tracy and Dee here to both talk about that. We're going to try to get the other speakers in another session. But Sarah, I think I've talked about, every time I talk about you, I say you have like perfect attendance. You've attended every single Slow Flowers Summit.
Yeah.
What possessed you to come in 2017 to come from Oakland to Seattle and attend? That was really special.
I think it helped that I had met you in person before that, so there was already this connection. And
That's right.
I was really excited about sourcing local, and it's easy for me to do being in California, and so I just felt this connection with what you were doing right off the bat.
Yeah, it was great to have your spirit and energy there, and continue year after year. No pressure, but you have to come next year now. But I thought, I was like, this is somebody who really walks the talk, and I really wanted to have you speak. So you're going to be kind of presenting during this conversation, a larger conversation of sustainability. But I asked you specifically to talk about how do you run a retail flower shop in a sustainable way, and maybe you can tell everybody get an introduction to Wildflower and Fern, where you're at, and kind of what are the building blocks of your business.
Okay, so Wildflower and Fern, like Deborah said, is a retail shop. We're in Oakland, California. And we started out really as another business called Unfurled, and we did wholesale sales to other florists and floral designers. And then I had the opportunity to take over a space from my previous boss. I had managed his shop for a couple years. And I was able to just pivot over to locally grown right away. I wasn't sure how our market would do with that. The previous owner had, supported local a bit, but did a lot of import stuff. So they're used to imported roses. They weren't used to the local roses. Um, and he never gave that a try. He just thought that our market wouldn't buy those things. But they really seem to love it. I'm in a food market, so it's a European style food market. And there's a lot of people that come and shop through that are looking for organic and locally grown stuff. They have a really nice produce market that's a lot of local. And they do importing also, but the focus is local. And so I just sort of got to hit the ground running with customers that were already a bit used to that. They weren't used to organic or didn't understand why it was so important, but I love to talk about it. When I'm in the shop, I pretty much talk to and make connection with each customer. And so, yeah, so it's just been a really fun road of teaching people why it's important to source locally. And
yeah. I mean, I feel like the other thing is that it's so cool because Tracy and Dee are both farmers, so you can love on them, but you love to talk about your relationships with the farms
yeah,
that you buy from. And I don't know, how many different farms do you source from?
oh gosh, I don't even know. It's quite a few. I've slowed down a little bit on the farm loop just because most of my farmers that I'm used to buying from changed their business models during COVID and are doing more CSA and more farm stand and using the online sourcing tools as well.
Yeah.
Which I don't really use because I really like my connection with the farmers. I have a couple unrooted farmer that I use that I have a relationship with.
So people are often able to deliver to you. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, so I have a couple that deliver some of the larger farms, and then I go to farmers markets and meet them at the farmers market. So we're sort of each going halfway, and that was a change in my model during COVID, was shopping at the farmers markets, and I just continue to do it because I made connections with new farms during that time, and they really helped me. I was helping them, and these connections that I have with the farmers, I roll that over to the customers. So the customers have relationships with the farmers in a different way, and I think that's one of the things that they really like here. When we get mixed bouquets from certain farms and they're labeled with their labels, we keep those on so that the customers know the source of origin of flowers, and it's important. And they may recognize a farm and go right for that bouquet, or they might jump from farm to farm. And we make a lot of our own hand bouquets. We're a flower bar, so people can come and kind of choose their own flowers and build their own bouquet if they want, or choose what they want, and then we'll build it for them. And so I want the bouquets to be our style, but these farm bouquets pretty much are, because we're a little bit wild and farmy.
Well, you are wildflower and fern, so I know you sell fern plants. In fact, I can see some outside behind you there on the canopy. So you also sell plants, right?
We don't sell a ton of plants. I have a friend who's got 2 shops about a mile in each direction from me, and I'm not a super plant person. So, but the ferns, obviously I need to carry ferns. And
part of your brand.
People were buying plants a lot in the beginning of COVID, and so the ferns were just rolling out of here. And we have blooming orchids. Occasionally I'll buy like a really cool begonia or something, but we focus on the flowers.
So before we move on to Tracy and Dee, talk just a little bit about what you want to share with the audience at the Slow Flower Summit. And of course you want people to bring questions too, so there can be conversation.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about my story. You've had it on a couple different platforms already. And I want to talk about how this shop is sustainable. And the biggest percentage of that for us is by buying locally grown flowers. There are lots of other ways we still need to change. And so we're in the process of doing that. There's a company called Bridwell that just started being accessible for me. And so we're just getting started on a program with them where they can recycle some of the things I can't recycle through the shop. And so what I want to talk about is being real about how things are going and what the challenges are. And it's not always easy to be sustainable. I'm lucky that I'm at this food market where they already have a composting program. So we compost everything here.
Wow.
and are able to recycle with them as well, which is really nice.
Yeah.
My biggest challenge is, of course, the plastic sleeves, because our company that we go through doesn't have a way to recycle those. So it's a conversation that I have with other florists every once in a while, and we think of a plan of what to do with them. Let's all return them back to the wholesalers all at once, to send a message. But then you get busy and you don't do it. So anyway, those are the things that I want to work on. So I want to talk about what we're doing now and what we're planning to do, and some of the things are difficult. Some of them are pretty easy. And I recognize that I'm in an easy spot for buying locally grown flowers. But there's also, people that are shipping from state to state, and I'm okay with that. A large percentage of what we grow is local, but I also have another tier that I consider Washington and Oregon.
Right.
Get a good amount from there also, and then domestic.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of domestic outside of the West Coast, but we do. And so if you're not in an area like I'm in, there are resources for getting stuff domestic that people don't really know about. So I might list a few of those. And then I'm starting to kind of flip our sympathy work into more green sympathy work. And I have a lot of to learn still. My funeral wreaths are not compostable, but there's very little plastic. I'm using zip ties still. But otherwise, it has a moss and chicken wire cage. I'm using things that are more durable, tubing some things, but then I get everything back from the mortuary.
Wow.
I reuse the tubes. I can't reuse the zip ties, but I'm reusing the cage that I'm making, reusing the wreath, unless the family wants to take them home, but that's not really common.
Yeah. Wow.
So I want to build one of those during my talk, just to kind of show people how it can be done.
Yeah.
And then possibly do a flower arrangement. I'm still kind of working out my time flow and see how that goes.
Yeah. It's a lot to ask of all of you in 30 minutes, or in an hour to talk and do a demo, but that's an option. And we have vases and flowers for all of you if you'd like, or, other materials, Sarah. So it'll be fun. And then the reason that the reason we ask everyone or gave everyone who's speaking an option to do a design is that seems to be the number one most preferred or favorite elements of the summit is when people get to learn by watching designs. So Sarah, I'd say go for it. Even if you pre-make something and just talk about it a little bit, I think that'll be a good takeaway.
That's what I'm thinking.
Awesome. Anything else? You feel like you're ready?
I feel like I'm almost ready. I'm getting there.
Okay. You're going to have a warm room, room of people who want to support you and encourage you and are, just happy to hear your story. So I'm thrilled that you're going to talk about that. And I think retail is a unique character, and there'll be some other retail florists who are going to, take comfort in hearing what you're up against. Awesome. Okay. Tracy and Dee, you're both going to be presenting on the flower farming track. And I pulled up the descriptions because I couldn't quite remember the titles. So Tracy, I'm going to start with you. Both of you are going to talk more as business strategies for flower farmers, which I think is really, that's really in this alignment with Slow Flowers and our mission, because we're not here to teach people how to flower farm. I would be the last person you want to learn how to flower farm with. I can highlight the experts like the two of you. But Tracy, you're speaking on making the leap into flower farming. And again, like Sarah saying that she's going to share her story, I hope that people learn both from you and Dee on your stories. And Dee, I will just mention that your talk is really focused on creative business strategies for urban micro farm and design studios. So actually, I think those are going to really complement each other. I can't remember who's going first, but Tracy, tell us a little bit about how you're preparing and what you're planning to bring to the table in 2 weeks.
Oh, so not gonna lie, I'm pretty nervous. So how I've been preparing is pretty much just kind of reflecting on my journey as a flower farmer thus far. I still consider myself a baby in the industry, but I'm a fast learner, and honestly, I've been forced to learn very quickly. So, yeah, I'm really just ready to share how I got into flower farming and where I am at with it currently. So,
Well, yeah, and we did have you on the podcast not that long ago. I think sometime, maybe was it last fall? Oh,
mhm.
I can't remember. Anyway, it was within the
Yeah,
last year.
yeah.
Because I got to come visit John Cove Farm. But can you just talk a little bit about the farm and how you have it set up so people can kind of place you on the map and also know a little bit about your scale? And we'll ask you the same thing.
Yeah. Um, so I am on leased land. I live in Everett, but my farm is in Monroe, which
And those
is
are
like,
outside of Seattle, right?
yes, yep, those are outside of Seattle. And let's see, I have 4 acres. My farm is, it's still a starter farm. It's still growing. It's actually grown since you've been there, Deborah. So
Okay,
you should come out
cool.
again. But
I know, I will
uh,
this summer.
yeah, but let's see, the biggest thing I did um, within the past year is grow my perennials. So I put in a lot of perennials since the fall. And yeah, and the dahlia production has, I think it's doubled, but
Wow.
according to Mama Yang and Nick, the dahlia production has tripled since last year. So,
You have to tell
um,
everyone who Mama Yang and who Nick
yeah.
are.
Mama Yang is my beloved mother, and Nick is my boyfriend, my partner.
Who
So
he kind of instigated this for you,
he
didn't he?
instigated the whole thing, and yeah, like although it was, it's been in my family for like 20 years, it just never occurred to me to officially be a part of the floral industry. But yeah, Nick was the one who was like, "No, we should do this. We definitely should." And yeah, so here we
So
are.
so you're growing on leased land, but you sounds like you felt comfortable planting perennials because if you did have to relocate, what would you take them with you or dig them up,
Yeah.
transfer
So
them?
usually, and that's something that's also a cultural thing that I realized. The more I like got into the industry, I was like, oh, just because being like the Hmong culture, how we farm is, and listening to my mom's stories of how she farmed living in like Laos and Thailand, she was always like, oh, we go to the farm. So they
Hmm.
never ever lived on the farm. It was always like leased land, always farming someone else's land. So I think that just carried over
Hmm.
here to America. So
Mhm.
it's just you just work with what you're given,
Yeah.
and
Well, the thing that I thought was really interesting when I first met you, and I think Dee, you and Tracy and I all met at the ASCFG conference
Yes.
last
Yeah, we
fall.
did.
Yeah, so I forgot that you guys were part of both there. But Tracy's comment early on when I first started chatting with her was like, "This is serious. This is a business, and I'm going to treat it like a business, and I'm going to only." I'm going to focus on what's profitable, not what other people are telling me I should grow. And I feel like that's not always talked about, Tracy. So how are you? You're also in college. You're also getting a degree. Is it in
yeah,
business?
yeah, it's in marketing. So
Okay, that's handy.
it is. It's
Yeah.
come in very, very handy. Yeah.
Well, what are the things that you've identified that have really been important business decisions in terms of like what you're growing or what your markets are, or are you retail, are you wholesale, like all those sort of questions that everybody has to face when they start a farm?
Yeah. Honestly, I think if I didn't have prior entrepreneurial experience, it would have, the flower farm would have been very challenging. But I think it is a combination of my past experience and then also the support of my family that we were able to be successful kind of right off the bat. So, um, but it's really, for me, I think the biggest asset that I bring to the table is that I'm very observant. So I'm very like I watch what the customer likes, I watch what they go for. I'm not afraid to ask questions either. Um, you know, I'll kind of make it seem like it's small talk, but really I'm trying to do like research. I'm like, so
watch out, everybody, if she small talks you at the summit.
Yep. Yep. I'm like, so.
No, but the thing is,
I'm
you're not just
curious.
taking; you're giving as much as you're taking in a conversation. Like there's a rich exchange of ideas. So I think that's valuable.
Sure. Yeah. So,
do you want to talk quickly about the collective that you've just formed? Because Dee has a collective too, so I think this is sort of an important. This is going to come up.
I asked Tracy if I could join the collective, and she's like, you just have to move here.
You might have to move
I know.
here,
I was like, Dee, we've talked about this, Dee. You just need to come to the Pacific Northwest.
There's just 3 time zones between us, Dee.
Yeah. But so something that I've learned about myself just over the years, and it came full circle again becoming a flower farmer, is that community means a lot to me. I'm very like community oriented, and something I learned just reconnecting to my roots being Hmong is like I saw that in action just amongst the Hmong flower farmers. Like we all have our own businesses, but at the same time we help each other. And I was like, why is this not a widespread thing in everything? Like where is the sense of that, especially with a pandemic happening? Like how and why did we lose sense of that? So I was like, you know what? And something that I do as a business owner too is I focus on what I know I can control and what I can do. So I was like, I don't have to wait for somebody to do this, right? I can be the change. I can be the difference that I want to see in the industry, in the community in general. So that's kind of what inspired me to start the Snow Co Flower Collective. So
well, the Snow Co Flower Collective has a lot of little it's like a rhyme, Snow Co Flow Co, right?
Yep.
But it's exciting, and you guys are launching really soon, right? And just we'll share that information too on the summit, and I can share it in our show notes. Is there an Instagram page or a website yet? Or
Yep. There's an Instagram and a website. snowcoflowco.com, and the Instagram is snowcoflowco. So.
And this is Snohomish County, which is the county north of Seattle, just so people understand where it is on the map. And this area where Tracy and Nick are already farming, it seemed like there was a lot of small micro farmers and boutique farmers kind of cropping up who weren't interested in selling into the large Seattle market. Is it just because of distance, right?
Yes. And also there's what I surprisingly found out is there's a number of florists up here also that do not like making the commute down to Seattle to shop. So they were like, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
It could easily be an hour if there's no traffic, and then it can be brutal if there is traffic. So
definitely.
Yes. Well, that's exciting. And what's your opening day?
July 26th. So
okay. And this is wholesale only, or will there be a retail component?
It's so the pricing is wholesale, but it is open to both florists and retail shoppers. So part of my decision to make just uniform pricing for both floral professionals and retail customers is one, it's easier for farmers to keep track of, and then two, also accessibility. That's a big thing for me too, is I want to make local flowers accessible, not just to people within the industry, but to the community as a whole.
Yeah. That's great. Well, hopefully I'll be able to come up and to visit you on the opening day. It'll be well after the summit, so I will have a less busy schedule. And, this is a great experiment. And like everything else I've witnessed you doing, sometimes you course correct and sometimes you evaluate and and make different decisions. So we wish you a lot of luck, and we're so glad we'll see you at the summit. And Tracy, you're a great presenter. You spoke at the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival this past February on the flower stage, which I was managing, and people just loved what you presented. So
Oh.
you've got the skill. It's
Thank you.
gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, and so you're going to be in the same breakout room with Dee Hall of Mermaid City Flower Farm. Hi, Dee.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad you're coming, and I know you've done a lot of speaking as well. And just give us an update on what's happening with Mermaid City and what you hope to share about having, you have more than one farm because you farm on lots of your neighbors' ground too, right?
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, Tracy was talking about community, which I feel. I mean, so I farm, I grow on borrowed space from neighbors. I actually have a wait list at this point because I'm still a one-woman show, and the word has gotten out, and lots of people are like, yes, I would love to have you grow flowers, and I don't have to do anything at all, and you'll also occasionally give me bouquets. Like, yeah, where's the downside of that? And
I failed to mention where you are too, Dee. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, I'm in Norfolk, Virginia. So I'm on the East Coast. And so it's been really interesting, kind of the evolution of the business, starting out, in just I don't have a backyard, it's all front yard, and kind of having people see me, get to know me that way in the neighborhood, and then offering more space, and then a friend telling a friend. Even a fair amount of my business is from my neighbors. Maybe 15% of my business are from my neighbors, and that's subscriptions and dailies, and I can often walk over arrangements. So I really love the somewhat unique model I've created, where I have plots kind of in my neighborhood, and it's kind of expanded. It's within about a 3 or 4 minute drive, so nothing that's terribly far away. So that's been pretty cool. Upcoming, I had a subscriber that works with a local environmental organization, and they are neighbors to another shop that's they're both about 5 minutes from my house, and there's a collaboration actually going between the three of us. The shop had some space that they wanted to fill with native plants. They learned about me, and I do a lot of work with native plants. I grow lots of native, and the environmental organization offered to provide them with pallets they could use to make the beds, raised beds, and they're going to also fund the native plants that are going to be put into those beds. And then they've asked me to provide flowers for an event down the line. So it's kind of like community at its heart. I can walk to these things from my house, and there's no, you can't get any more local.
Yeah. It's all upside.
Grown down the street, so that's a pretty cool collaboration that I'm looking forward to. The beds are in the process of being built right now.
So are you designing the plantings, or are they going to, you're just consulting with them and then you'll have the flowers for the event?
No, I'm going to design the plants.
Wow.
I'm going to be putting in everything there
That's awesome.
as well. And I will actually be sourcing some of the perennials. A friend of mine has a native plant shop about 2 minutes walk from there. So a lot of perennials that if I don't already have, I'll be sourcing them from her, with an emphasis obviously on those that can be cut.
That's wonderful. Right. I mean, that feels like the next big thing is to grow natives that can be good for your environment and your land, but also, and pollinators, but also look good and have a vase life. So it's so specific to region too, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So I kind of, in the beginning when I was starting my farm, I knew I wanted to grow lots of natives. And so I kind of did a cross reference of, like Southeastern native plants with like the AFCFG reference guides and then other cut flower guides to kind of figure out as a whole, what my options were. And, I say I'll cut anything and put it in a vase, give it do a vase test, a life test, and see how that goes. And, we can go from there.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's fun. Anything else you want to share about what you're going to discuss when you're here at the Slow Flower Summit?
Yeah, I guess the like I said, the biggest thing is community. I mean, Tracy was talking about marketing, and I haven't had to do very much marketing so far because I have found with my model where I'm literally outside and people see me and get to know me and tell a friend, things have kind of grown on their own. It's been more than I could have imagined. And speaking of collectives, I have two collectives as well. I have a local collective, the Tidewater Flower Collective, and then Black Flower Farmers. So both were founded with the intent of kind of community building and space sharing for growers, however formal or informal that they'd like it to be. So sometimes it's just us, saying, oh my God, guys, look at this 2 foot tall, whatever, snapdragon or whatever. And then recently somebody asked about going in on, an order for organic, pest control. Somebody wanted to order, ladybugs, lacewings, that kind of thing. It just runs the gamut, in Black Flower Farmers. There's everything from, hey, I'm interested in applying for a grant for the first time. Anybody have anything that they could, tell me about that process, to I've never done funeral flowers and I have to do a funerary arrangement. Any tips for getting started, and often
That's wonderful.
People have a space where they can, if they bought excess. Sometimes, farmers have been known to get a little excessive with their purchases for certain types of plants. I won't name any names.
I think florists do too, right, Sarah?
And so then there's a space to say, oops, guys, I bought 1,000 too many of these. Who's interested? Or even like in my local collective, I have a wedding and whatever, I got rust on this crop. Does anybody have, 10 bunches of stock I could use, or I could, buy or whatever. And I just love that collaborative aspect, and it hasn't felt competitive at all. People will often ask me that, do I feel like I'm competing? And I feel like no, because we all have our areas that are somewhat unique. I focus on subscriptions, weddings, and dailies, but then there are some people who do wholesale only, for instance, or they prefer workshops. Another grower has recently moved into growing, but doing mostly value-added products. So she's drying her flowers and selling the value-added products, and that's become a bigger seller for her than selling fresh cut flowers. So there's a conversation going on right now about, quitting your corporate job to focus on, flower farming full time. So it's really cool and really insightful to get to be a part of all these different conversations that happen in these groups.
I love it. And I feel like the other community is going to be together in person at the Slow Flower Summit. And while we don't have our membership doesn't have a specific farming only focus, it's like a real intersection of sustainable floristry and sustainable flower farming. And that, I think, enriches all of us when we can learn from each other. So I'm thrilled that all three of you will be sharing and just honestly have that time together over 2 days to just learn from each other. I thank you all so much for sharing. Is there anything anybody wants to add or ask before we wrap up? Do you want to ask questions of each other?
I did have a quick question for Deborah. Do you know the percentage of people that are more lay people, and then people who are more farmers, and then more florists or floral designers that are coming to the summit?
Oh, that's a great question, kind of our demographics.
Yeah.
I actually did a little deep dive into the registration list. We've got about 140 people coming. There is about, I'd say about out of that, maybe 10 or 15 people who are, just garden enthusiasts who really, and that's what we're seeing is that flower lovers, flower aficionados want to learn from the pros. So this is something that is at a botanical garden. So we've drawn in some of the garden community or garden professionals. But other than that, I would say it's about 50-50 between flower farmers, and I would include farmer florist in that category, and then studio and retail and event florists. So it's a real balance, and it's kind of unique in that regard for other conferences because usually they're very floral design focused or very flower farming focused, and we kind of do a mashup. But you'll all have a lot of peers and also people that you might end up, wanting to do business with. Who knows? I mean, that's going to be part of the adventure. And I told that to Brad Seeby, the general manager of the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market, where Tracy sells her flowers. I said, dude, if you want to launch a shipping program, this is when you should announce it because people are going to see all the local flowers and want to know how they can buy wholesale, shipping. I know it's easier for me to say that than to actually engineer it, but anyway, we'll see if that comes up. What do you think, Tracy?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's a whole different business model, but it's just going to be great to be immersed in local flowers. We have local flowers coming from lots of our member growers and some of the larger commercial farms in California. And we just got Jim Martin, who's one of our members, who's going to help me create an entry installation that'll be ready when everybody walks in. He's from Compost in My Shoe in Charleston, so he's kind of in your backyard, Dee. He and I just got permission to go cut on a farm that is no longer growing for sale because they're converting to a wedding venue. And so we're going to be filling my Honda with as many branches as possible on Saturday. So we're going to have lots of material for people to get their hands on, which is really a fun part of the summit. All right, so I'm ready to wrap up. I know Tracy and Dee, do you have any questions? I don't want to cut you out if you have things to add.
I'm just excited. I'm excited too.
I can't wait.
I am thrilled. Sarah's flying in on Saturday and coming with one of her flower farmers, which is also a Slow Flowers member, which I love. And Dee, how about you? Are you going to come longer? Because I know you have lots of friends out here.
Yeah, I'm actually coming on the Wednesday before, so I'm gonna hang out and bother people, probably including Tracy. I have lots of farmer florist friends, in Seattle and North, so it's always a great opportunity for me to get together.
I love it
and hang out.
So who takes care of your neighbors and their flower orders when you're gone? Do you have your son working on that?
I made sure I cleared my week I made sure I didn't have subscriptions or anything that week since I knew I had this. And yes, my son, my 18-year-old, he has graduation today, and so my time is very limited on that, very specific labor that I have until he leaves in a couple weeks for college. So he'll probably be in charge of we've had an unusually cool and wet spring here. Things are like weeks to months behind. And so there hasn't been a whole lot that's needed to happen that would typically be happening in June, but gotta see, just watch the weather and see what happens.
I know, Sarah, it's probably hard for you to leave the retail shop to travel.
It's hard, but I have a pretty good team and I've got coverage for buying and watching the shop.
Yeah, good. Well, all three of you, I appreciate your presence and your talents and your hearts. And I'm excited to see you all at the summit. And thanks for chatting so we can share this with the larger Slow Flowers community. Maybe get a few more people to sign up, or they can just kind of watch virtually and learn from all of you this way. So thanks so much, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Deborah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Deborah Prinzing with the Slow Flowers podcast and Slow Flowers show. And this is part 2 of our speaker preview of all of our experts who are going to be at the Slow Flowers Summit just in 12 days on, I can't believe it, June 26th and 27th. So I'm delighted that these 3 beautiful, talented, gifted people are joining me in the studio today. And I'm just going to introduce them clockwise, and then we're going to just visit with each of them for 10 minutes or so and get a little update on what we can anticipate at the Slow Flower Summit. So upper left is Becky Feasby of Prairie Girl Flowers. Hi, Becky. And upper right is Gina Lett-Shrewsberry. And Gina is Inspirations by Gina in the Sacramento area. And Becky, I didn't say you're in the Calgary, Alberta, Canada area. And Valerie Crisostomo of Black Girl Florists, and you're coming to us from Atlanta. Hi, Valerie. Oh, Valerie, I can't hear you. Is your mic on?
Hey there. Yeah. Hi.
There we go. Well, great. Okay. So I'm going to start with Gina and Valerie because they're in the expert track on floristry and floral design. And you're both going to speak on Tuesday back to back. And we are going to have conversations, lots of flowers, and lots of kind of advice for people who are interested in upping their game in the floral world. Gina, why don't you give us a snapshot of what's going on with Inspirations by Gina? And I'll just say, Gina and Valerie were on the podcast together in the early 2022, I think, before the first Black Girl Florist Conference. So return guests. So, hey, Gina, what's going on?
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast again. I really appreciate it. There has been a lot going on this season. The season started in January. I've had opportunities to be on other podcasts. Of course, I'm going to be a speaker at the Slow Flower Summit. I'm very excited about that. Been doing a lot of weddings, corporate events, and just, there's just so much going on. I mean,
yeah,
just behind the scenes and in front. I mean, I've grown so much in the last year, and I just, I look at previous designs and I'm thinking, wow. And I can see in myself now how much I've grown. And this year, again, I participated in Bouquets to Art at the DeYoung Museum in San Francisco. And if anyone does not know, I made history last year as the first African-American floral designer to participate in the 38-year history.
Yeah, what's up with that? I mean, yeah, it's great, but come on, people.
I mean, there's been other African-American floral designers coming in, but they were helping other individuals.
Yeah.
But I was the first that had a business that,
your own studio. Yeah.
My own studio. And so it was really, really celebrated this year. Had a TV appearance, and that was fun. Fun to be on the news channel that I grew up with. Shout out to KGO TV, Channel 7 in San Francisco. Thank you.
I watched that segment. That was, I wanted it to be longer, but you know what? You take what you get.
I know,
media,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, and TV, it's like, it happened very, very quickly. So that was kind of the highlight so far for this month. But yeah, with Bouquets to Art, it gives me a chance to break out of the wedding floral designer mode, and take art and then interpret it how I feel it should look.
Yeah.
And so, of course, me over analyzing everything, I kept looking because it was based on the woman in a yellow dress, and it's by Nicholas Africano, and it's this glass sculpture that where the lady is wearing a all yellow dress. And I kept thinking, okay, I need to do a mannequin. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I'm just like, no, stop it. Stop overanalyzing and just think of it in terms of flowers. And that's when I went shopping at the Flower Mart, San Francisco Flower Mart. And I got Banksia. I got protea, pincushion proteas. Of course, one of my favorites, billy balls, and I got yellow roses, and I put in orchids, and I just ran with it. Unfortunately, I had to use foam just to keep the piece fresh for the whole week. But I did add a little bit of a sustainability aspect to it. The containers that it was in, I got it from Goodwill.
Well, that kind of repurposing and recycling is something you do throughout throughout your
Exactly.
business, especially I think during COVID when you were doing everyday orders for people, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, I was taking like huge vegetable cans and I was like painting them,
Mm, love
you
it.
know.
Well, Gina, the piece was so beautiful. I'll try to get a photo and put it in our show notes so people can see it
Okay.
because the Bouquets to Art is still going on through the end of the week, right?
It ended on Sunday.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah, it
great.
ended
Well,
on Sunday.
congratulations. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
that
you.
is huge. And you're going to do a floral design at the Slow Flowers Summit. And as is Valerie. Becky has begged off, but we'll hear why in a minute. But what do you hope? So your topic is a little bit of has a sustainability thread when you're speaking at the Slow Flower Summit from a florist point of view, a wedding and event
Mhm.
florist. You're also going to
Mhm.
talk about your sourcing relationships and where you get flowers. But what are you hoping to bring to the conversation? And it is a conversation. I think it'll be very
Mhm.
interactive with the audience.
Well, the conversations that I want to, bring to the table is that, we love to bring pretty to people's lives, but we need to bring pretty to our own lives.
Hmm.
And whether it's through farming and seeing things, grow out of the soil, or we're farming, we're retailing. We need to bring pretty to our own soul and spirit,
Hmm.
and I think that is very, very important in today's climate.
Yeah, it's a personal sustainability.
Hmm.
And we're going to have fun. I know you're going to
Yes,
have a few
yes, I'm going to bring
surprises.
some interesting stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's
Because
awesome.
I know when I go to a conference, I just hate when there's like a talking head up front and it sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 and the PowerPoint presentation. And I'm just like, ugh. I want, it's going to
Yeah.
be very, very interactive.
Right. Well, I think we're going to have a little bit of everything, and so there will be some people who use PowerPoint, but they're
Right, and there's
we
nothing
love our
wrong with
speakers.
that. It's
Yeah.
just
but for you, and actually, the floral design breakout room is going to be outdoors in this
Mhm.
open air lattice space that it's not like the public can wander in or anything, but it's going to be shaded so that if it happens to be really hot and sunny in Seattle, which doesn't look like it'll happen, people will be out of the sun, but also there'll be this sort of garden environment. So, you can make a mess and, leave clippings on the floor. It's not a big deal. We'll be able to sweep them up afterwards. But
knowing me, I'll probably what? Can I have the broom and I'll start sweeping?
it's so funny you say that. We actually Karen and I had a meeting yesterday. This is an aside, but relevant. We had a meeting with Lori Polisky and Tammy Myers, who are local Slow Flowers members who are going to kind of spearhead the floral design takeover on Monday afternoon. And they were really worried about how many brooms we're going to have and how many bags of for compost. And Karen, our event manager, said, you know what, this Slow Flowers crowd, I can tell they all come out of the event business because I've never worked on a conference where people clean up after themselves. Like, the pet company and the corporate investors, they don't pick up after themselves. So she loves the fact that we know how to, we're thoughtful. Yeah. So
and
not
women,
that, not
women
and
too.
they're women, but our speakers should not have to pick up after themselves, but we'll have lots of volunteers. Anything else, Gina, before I bounce over to Valerie?
No, that's pretty much it. I'm excited to go up to one of my favorite cities, and I'm just going to let it be known. All the times I've been to Seattle, I have brought great weather, except the last time where it snowed.
Okay. Well, I
That
don't think
was
it's
in
going to snow in
December.
June. Yeah, I keep looking at the forecast, and I'm going to check real quick while we're talking. I mean, we don't have a complete 2 week forecast, but it looks like it will be in the mid 70s, and the Friday before the summit, it's supposed to be 76 and 30% chance of rain. So I'll have some weather updates beyond that coming right up, but I think we'll be okay. The nice thing about Seattle and mostly the whole West Coast, and sorry, Valerie, don't experience this, but you'll like it, is no humidity, which is we're spoiled out here on the West Coast for that. Okay, Valerie, how are you? You've been traveling. What's been going on with your amazing universe of Black Girl Florists?
I have been traveling. Oh my goodness. I have been all around the world. I would say even starting, I'm going to move over this way here.
Okay, I can tell you're like in a workspace, right?
I am. Yes, I'm trying to get like the quietest space to be in. But
You're doing great.
okay, great. But yes, I mean, it's been amazing. I would say since January 1, just running. We started with participating in the Philadelphia Flower Show and having great success in that space. And then moving on to having our second annual conference, which was just so amazing. I haven't even been able to unpack, honestly, how amazing of a time we had. And it was certainly completely different than the first, just as amazing, but you can tell that each conference has their own personality. And then going through a couple of conferences this summer, but for the most part, just been jumping and traveling and doing all the things.
Well, I want to talk about this remarkable accomplishment of a group of Black Girl Florist members, and you were kind of the design lead on this, right?
Yes.
At the Philadelphia Flower and Garden Show. You did an installation and you won some awards. And this was was it in early March?
It was late
Okay.
February, early March.
Okay, tell us about it.
It was fantastic.
You had it was an indoor. They went back to the indoor conference, indoor
They
flower show,
did.
right? Okay.
Yes, because they were outdoor the year before, and then they brought it back into the Pennsylvania Convention Center this year. So it was indoors, which was great. That helped a lot to keep the flowers fresh and with hydration, which is really great. But it was fantastic. We had a design that featured 3 different barrels that reflected the number of years that each of the florists have been in the industry, and how when we share and basically give of our talent, that basically we create something beautiful. It culminated in the center with 3 trees, which are representative of our foundation in the industry and how high we can go when we work together. And then on the other side, it splashed up against a really large flower wall, which inherently became like the centerpiece of the show, and people just took pictures in that space. Which is not what we were expecting, but it was really awesome to see everyone engage with our design and just be really proud of our participation.
Was there a name for the design, or if so, I apologize, I don't remember what it is.
Yeah. Yes, it was Unified Through Our Pour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you won a couple awards. What were the prizes that the judges gave you?
We did. So we won 2 awards. One award, so each of the awards were pretty much grouped. So we won in the second place group, which was the silver medal. And then we also won the Gardening for Good award.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. I mean,
thank you so much.
Just back to, kind of Gina's point about, the DeYoung and Bouquets to Art, and to see Black Girl Florists at the Philadelphia Flower and Garden Festival. I feel like that the people who are attending those events are going to be so enriched by seeing representation of artists who they look like and who look like them, and who they can, like young people who can learn and say, oh, this is a profession that I could follow. I mean, you must have had some great conversations with attendees.
Oh, yes. I mean, a lot of the attendees really enjoyed like the installation, but when they heard the story in the background and understood what it took to bring this installation to life, everyone loved it so much.
Well, I'd love to get a couple photos to put in our show notes.
Yeah, I'll share with you.
Of I mean, it's epic. What I know about the Philadelphia Flower and Garden Show, and I think I probably mentioned this to you, it's like 9 days, right?
Yeah, it's really long, like 2.5 weeks.
Oh my gosh. You have to like put your whole life on hold to do that. I'm impressed.
Yep.
And
we
then
went to water in the morning, went to water in the evening, every single day.
How many of your members participated in that?
We had 12 florists that participated from literally all over the nation.
Wow.
Not the
Wow.
West Coast, unfortunately.
Well, next, yeah, I
Next
mean,
time, Gina, you gotta come out.
Well, need more notice.
I don't
Let me
know if
tell
I had
you,
any
well,
notice.
speaking to Gina's point, that's the beauty of it. We came in on the show at the very tail end during the holiday season. I mean, we had to get really, really start moving and get everything in order. I sent an email to all the florists and the organization, and I was like, hey, who's available? Because by then, the other participants had been having information for at least a couple months. So it's so exciting how we were able to mobilize together and come up with this design, the mechanics for this design, and then everyone change around the schedule to come up for those 2 weeks. I mean, to Gina's point, yeah, super last minute, but we pulled it together.
That's great. Well, there'll be other
Yeah.
opportunities. Yeah. And
Next
it is,
year or this
yeah.
year.
Yes.
This year,
Yeah.
give us some notice, because trying to get on the, I mean, you have to like take out a
Yeah.
mortgage to get back east during the
Yeah. Well,
holidays.
that's what happens. That's what happens with regional events. I feel like that with the Slow Flower Summit too. A good number of our attendees are coming from, the West Coast, probably at
Yeah.
least half. But there are people coming from about
Okay.
20 different states, and I think 2 Canadian
Oh, nice.
provinces. And we have a registrant from Tokyo. Can you believe it?
Oh, that's
Wow.
I
awesome.
That's going to
know.
be awesome.
I know. I'm thrilled. I can't wait to hear what's going on in her floral business. I just at the original registration was literally in Japanese characters, and I had to go dig around on the internet
Oh
to find out
man, how neat.
what her name was. Yeah. Well, so after the Philly show, then you did go right back to Atlanta and produce the Black Girl Florist conference,
Yes.
Valerie. I mean, that was in
Turnaround.
April, right?
It was in April. Yep, the first week of April. Very, very quick turnaround, but it turned out fantastic. We had our Black Girl Florist Awards in the middle of the event. It's 3 days for the conference, and it was just fantastic seeing everyone connect and get to know one another. We did have some attendees that attended from the previous year, and then we had some new attendees. It was a beautiful time.
I know, and I keep saying I got to get out to attend, but you're right. The time is kind of sneaks up on you, and you're all of a sudden
It
saying,
does.
"Oh my gosh, I just finished the Northwest Flower and Garden show," and which is always at the end of February, and then I dive right into something else. So,
Yeah.
I feel guilty telling you I'm going to come, and then I don't come, but I'll try to remedy that next year. Maybe Becky and I'll
Yes,
go.
that would be
Yeah,
great.
Becky would take any chance to get out of Calgary in April. Well, Valerie, before we move on to Becky, just you and I talked about I wanted to have you at the Soulflower Summit. You were interested in coming. You attended
Yes,
last year, so you kind of
I
know,
did.
know what the summit is like, as has Gina. She's attended 2 previous years. But what
Yeah.
what are you hoping to share with the attendees, half of whom are probably florists or farmer florists, the other half are mostly farmers, so it's a kind of a blended mix of attendees.
The biggest takeaway that I want the attendees to take from my session is just the authenticity in their work.
Mhm.
I think that a lot of times we can really believe that this industry, not only as florists, but as flower farmers and growers, really think that it's oversaturated. But the truth is that it's not. There's a place and a role for every single person in this space. And that's what we continue to vibrate through the Black Girl Florist organization and even in the message that I'm going to share at the Slow Flowers conference.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you're going to do a
Yeah,
floral design as well.
I am, yes.
And I have to say, I feel like, you're kind of guinea pigs, but all the speakers are, because no one's going to know what floral material is there to work with
I
until
was thinking about that
they
the
show
other day.
up. Yeah, somebody asked me, well, one of the farms that's donating flowers said, well, what color palette do you want? And I was like, look, we want everything, because it's you don't want to say no to flowers that are being donated,
Yeah.
right? You want to take what you can
Mhm.
get, but you also know that it's like peak of season. Everything's going to look awesome.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I can't. I think that a lot of, well, it's sort of like design on the fly. You'll make it work and it'll be fun.
Hey, I've designed in a parking lot. Okay, so
Okay, now. Gina's
so
ready for
I'm ready
everything.
for the
Let's do it.
challenge, and
Well,
I like to responsibly forage, so I
Oh,
I'm
nice.
looking forward to it.
yeah. Well, the Bellevue Botanical Garden will like shut you down if you try to clip from there.
No,
But-
that's part of the responsibility. I ask.
Oh. I will say for the floral takeover, and then we'll get to Becky. We had this planning meeting, and Tammy and Lori have gone through the whole, and this is like a 42-acre property, this botanical garden. They've gone through the whole place to find the sites where we're going to have like these mini installations. I mean, we're only going to have 3 hours to do it, so everything's going to be awesome, but not like epic, full garden display like what you're talking about, Valerie, at the Philly show. But I'm looking at the slides of all these locations, and some of them are arbors and benches and railings, and then there's like one with a trash can, and I'm like, why is this trash can in there? And they're like, well, a la Lewis Miller, someone's got to flower this trash can, and so that will be crazy.
Man.
I know,
They
right?
do that in New York all the time.
Yeah,
I've seen it on Instagram.
Yeah, and that's the designer Lewis Miller who kind of started that, and so I thought it was brilliant. And the gals were like, "Well, do you think that the botanical garden will be able to like give up use of one garbage can for a few days?" I'm like, "Yes, this is going to be better than anything they've ever had." So I really can't wait to see it and see what everybody does. So I'm thrilled that you're both going to be traveling here, and well, all three of you are going to be on a plane coming into Seattle very soon. So let's talk to Becky real quickly. Becky Feasby is the second part of the sustainability panel or track. Our viewers met Sarah Riaz yesterday. They also met Dee Hall and Tracy Yang, who are going to be in the flower farming track. But hey, Becky, I'm so delighted that you're going to be with us. And you're not going to be a boring PowerPoint presenter. You're going to be a lively one, right?
I try to make sure that nothing I do is boring. I mean, I did opt out because Deborah said, do you want to do design? And I said no. And it wasn't so much because I didn't want to design anything. It's because I wanted to offer something that really gave people an opportunity to think outside the sort of sustainability box that we've kind of put ourselves into. And hopefully people will leave feeling like they learned a bunch of stuff, but they're also sort of inspired to go and seek out new and different solutions to some of the problems, either real or existential, that they've been facing in trying to create more sustainable businesses. So I hope to have a couple exercises that we sort of go through together. Some things, one that I've learned during my master's program that I found, it's funny, when I first went through it, it was a sustainability leadership for the 21st century was the name of the course. And it was one of our core courses. And when I first went through it, I thought, this would never happen. The terrible outcome I'm anticipating and the fears that I am projecting into trying to solve this sustainability issue, they will never happen. And now that
what do you mean, like that actual problem won't happen? Like you just imagined it?
It's an exercise where you go through identifying a problem, trying to sort of come up with the things the steps you might take to solve it, and then what's getting in your way from even starting to try to work on that problem. And they're sort of called our big assumptions, our assumptions that we're putting on ourselves that, people won't like me, somebody will get angry, it will be too hard, like all of these sorts of things that get in our way of, trying to affect some kind of change, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember going through the exercise in class, and everybody in class, their big assumptions were like, people won't like me, I'll get a bunch of hate, and blah, 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 blah. And we were all sort of giggling, saying, well, those are big assumptions and they probably won't come true. Except now, in one thing that I'm working on really, really hard, all of those assumptions have come true.
Yeah.
So then I think to myself, how do I deal with the excessive amount of hate that I've received in the last 3 weeks? How do I try to wrap my head around affecting change that I think is meaningful and important? And either, welcome that hate and try to sort of work through it, or push it away. So all of these sorts of things. So I'm hoping that some of these things that we work on during my session, people will be able to take away and go, okay, here's a quick and easy chart that I can write some of my issues down in, and then write down all my big assumptions or my worries or concerns, and then come up with sort of a plan of attack, if you will.
So, you're also going to bring sort of your, your excitement about things that are happening with your own conference or workshop, which is the Sustainable Flowers Project that you do with
Yep.
TJ McGrath, which
Absolutely,
is this
yes.
fall.
And so we are so excited for that. And it's something that I've worked on since 2019 when I ran it for 3 years here in Calgary, and then I've partnered up with TJ to run it together. And so last year was our first time doing that, and it was amazing. So we're trying to build on that every year, make it better, take tips and ideas and feedback we receive each year to try to sort of build it up into what we know people need and want, and try to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like part think tank, part, incredible design opportunities with really phenomenal instructors, inspirational talks. There's always social justice in it, right? So we try to weave together all of these things so that people leave feeling really sort of uplifted and full, and, maybe full of more questions and stuff, but I think that's okay, right? So just that, yeah. And that's sort of a big part of the way I sort of run my life, Deborah, to be honest, like all of my stuff. Yeah.
And like the Slow Flowers Summit, well, by the way, I did speak to the Sustainable Flowers Project, but it was virtual because
virtually, exactly.
and I couldn't get into Canada. Like I was not allowed. So
that's right.
But what I know about your events, and I know about Karen Thornton, our event manager for the summit, is there's always good food, and you've got to feed people really well.
Yes,
so
we
they
always
can
have very good food. Yes,
do all these creative things and feel back to self-care comment of Gina's, like
totally
nurtured. So
yes, yeah, and I think it's important. So so since I saw everybody last year at the summit, I've finished all my coursework for my graduate program, and now I'm on to thesis, research, and writing, which will run through the summer, through the fall, hopefully sort of finish around March or April, and then convocate in May
of 2024.
Of 2024, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I wish very exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, since we're talking about food, I will just say I just got the confirmation that the menu is finalized for our farm dinner on Sunday night, which is going to be the 25th at a farm called Mercer Island Funny Farm, which is it's a horse farm, like a place where children can take horseback riding classes. But one of our members has a business called Kika Flowers, and it's her cousins or something, and they let her grow her flowers on the land around this beautiful horse farm. But we're so excited that we have the catering is from Christy Brown, and Christy Brown owns the hottest Black-owned restaurant in Seattle called Communion, but she has a catering side of her business called that Brown Girl Cooks, and she's going to cater for us and make it a completely like Northwest cuisine meets Southern cuisine. So we'll see what that's like. I don't think anyone will complain, but we're thrilled. We're thrilled because she doesn't usually, I hear she doesn't usually cater on Sundays because Sunday is a church day. And so she made an exception for us, and the food will be spectacular. And then we really have a priority with the summit. And I know Becky's and I've talked about this, and I know Valerie, your events are like this. You really want to support women-owned businesses and have as much representation as possible with your vendors. So we have a Latina-owned caterer for our food on Monday and Tuesday, which is spacing out on the name of that business. Anyway, you'll know about it when you come. But I've also seen that menu, and I think we're going to be well fed and we're going to be well flowered. So I'm thrilled that you'll all be with us. And I just thank you for giving a little snapshot to people. We're going to just kind of tease this out when I post this weekend to say there's still time to get a ticket. It's almost down to the wire, and we're almost sold out. We only have about 10 tickets left. So if you're watching this and you think, I want to meet these women and I want to learn from them, I would love to have you reach out, and we'll try to help you figure out how to, you're right, Gina, those last minute plane tickets can be a killer, but if you have a car, you can drive. So anything else any of you want to add before we wrap up?
I'm just really looking forward to it. Yeah. The Slow Flower Summit's always sort of a highlight for me.
Yeah,
and thank you, Deborah, for all that you do to lift people up in this business of flowers, this crazy world of flowers.
Yeah. Yeah. If we can't do that, then what's the point, right?
Yeah, I
So
agree. Yeah.
well, travel safe, and I will see you all very soon. I'll reach out to both Valerie and Gina for photos. Becky, you're gonna have some photos of one of your fun containers you've designed for your clients, right? What do you have that you can send me?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Do you need something? I can send you something.
I'm sort of teasing you, but on the other hand, why not? I want to see what you've been working on lately. You're not doing any weddings this summer, are you?
No, I have one later in August.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just like busy with all the
minimal.
Other
yeah.
stuff.
And Valerie and Gina, you both probably have a number of weddings.
Epic, yeah, I bet.
No, it's minimal. I've got let's see. I have 2 in July and I have 1 in August.
Okay.
And that's cool. I can do things behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And get ready for September, October, and November.
Which will be
actually September and October. Yeah.
How about you, Valerie?
I have 1 in July and 1 possibly in August.
Okay.
But the September, October rush is surely to come.
Yeah, I was going to say in your climate, people want those spring and fall weddings, but also in Northern California. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much. I'm delighted that we had this chat. I love you all, and I'll see you all very soon. And people can get more details about all these talented people at our show notes at slowflowerspodcast.com. Okay. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. And what a great group of people and what a great conversation. If you're still thinking about attending the Slow Flower Summit, the general and member registration levels close midnight Pacific time on Sunday, June 19th. After that, we will only be charging the walk-in rate ticket, which is $899. So grab it early if you can. Slow Flowers members, you enjoy $100 off as a member benefit. So please reach out if you have any questions. We might be able to connect you with an attendee who has an extra ticket to sell. And before I go, I want to take a minute to thank our supporters who bring this show to you. This show is brought to you by slowflowers.com, the free online directory to more than 850 florists, shops, and studios who design with local, seasonal, and sustainable flowers, and to the farms that grow those blooms. It's the conscious choice for buying and sending flowers. And thank you to our lead sponsor, Farm Girl Flowers. Farm Girl Flowers delivers iconic burlap wrap bouquets and lush, abundant arrangements to customers across the U.S., supporting U.S. flower farms by purchasing more than $10 million of U.S.-grown, fresh, and seasonal flowers and foliage annually. Discover more at farmgirlflowers.com. Thank you to Longfield Gardens, which provides home gardeners with high-quality flower bulbs and perennials. Their online store offers plants for every region and every season, from tulips and daffodils to dahlias, caladiums, and amaryllis. Check out the full catalog at longfield-gardens.com. Thank you to Rooted Farmers. Rooted Farmers works exclusively with local growers to put the highest quality specialty cut flowers in floral customers' hands. When you partner with Rooted Farmers, you are investing in your community, and you can expect a commitment to excellence in return. Learn more at rootedfarmers.com. And thank you to Johnny's Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is an employee-owned company that provides our industry with the best flower, herb, and vegetable seeds supplied to farms large and small, and even to backyard cutting gardens like mine. Find the full catalog of flower seeds and bulbs at johnnysseeds.com. I love all this floral goodness, and I'm so happy you joined me today. The Slow Flower Show is a member-supported endeavor, and I value our loyal members and supporters. If you're new to our weekly show or our long-running podcast, check out all of our resources at slowflowerssociety.com. I'm Deborah Prinzing, host and producer of The Slow Flowers Show and The Slow Flowers Podcast. Next week, you're invited to join me in putting more slow flowers on the table, one stem, one vase at a time. The content and opinions expressed here are either mine alone or those of my guests alone, independent of any podcast sponsor or other person